byproducts from industrial facilities may be linked to asthma, cancer, and other healthcare problems, say some scientists and healthcare professionals. Since following the water contamination crisis in Flint, Michigan, Suncoast residents are taking closer heed in monitoring environmental risk in our own backyards. Joining us on Black Almanac today, Dr. Merritt of the Multicultural Health Institute and Mary Butler, Amaryllis Park Neighborhood Association Vice President. Welcome to Black Almanac. Dr. Merritt, Ms. Butler, thank you for joining us today to talk about something that's critically important, our health, and taking charge of it. Dr. Merritt, you're always working on us about doing the right thing by ourselves, and so the event that you have coming up soon on September 18th is going to be so important. So thanks for joining us to talk about that and some other things today. If there's one thing that we can say that's good, I suppose, about what happened in Flint, Michigan, with the water contamination issue, is that it has raised our awareness of how we have to pay attention and start taking control over what's going on in our own backyards. So what's going to happen on September 18th?
Well, I think I'll let Mary describe that. We're going to have an interactive on environmental health in our community. But since it's being sponsored by the Amaryllis Park Neighborhood Association, in which Mary is the vice president, I think it would be great for her to talk about what we're planning to do and why we're planning to do that.
Sure. We're having an event on September the 18th. It's going to be at Robert L. Taylor, and we're going to bring together members from the community, other neighborhood associations to talk about our environment and our health and what's going on. You know, since Hurricane Irma, you know, the flooding was a big thing, and more people became concerned about their environment and their health. So we're going to have a fair to talk about this and to share what we have found. We're going to share the data and how we can work together, come together around action and have this event.
Ms. Butler, when you say that more people have been concerned, what are you hearing in the association? What are people talking about that lets you know that people really are paying attention and saying we've got to take way more control over what's happening?
Sure. Like I said, after Hurricane Irma, there was a lot of flooding. And even weeks after Hurricane Irma, people were wondering, why is my yard still full of water, and how is this affecting our environment and our health? And as we begin to look more into it, we begin to ask questions about, like, the dust, you know, the pollution, how is that affecting our health? And we also take a look at the data, you know, for example, the emergency room data. Asthma, you know, asthma is just one of the highest things that are going on when people are going to the emergency room. And if you live in the 34234 zip code, it's actually the highest zip code that has been referred to the emergency room, Sarasota Memorial Hospital, you know, for asthma related.
Why might that be?
Well, I'm not sure. Maybe Dr. Lisa can answer that better.
Yeah, and so, you know, we think it's really important to have this community interactive to make people aware of different situations in their lifestyle choices as well as the environment that they live in that can contribute to health disparities that we see in our region and certainly nationally. We think through that awareness and through educating people on what they can do for their own personal wellness journey. And we urge people to come out next Tuesday, the 18th. It's going to be at 5:30 at Robert L. Taylor. We're going to have dinner. It's free. And learn what's going on. Why is this important? Because we do know that we have disparities like 5% of this population contributing to 20% of the ER visits for asthma. We do know that nationally, African American children are something like almost 5 times higher having a rate of ER visits overall. As compared to Caucasian children, and a 7-time higher rate of death. Asthma can still kill people. We know that the same thing for African American adults. It's about 3 times higher rate of ER visits and death from asthma. And why is that? Some of it is lifestyle choice, but much of it is environment, and that we know the environments of communities of color nationally are often fraught with environmental toxicity issues and concerns of exposure to what's called fugitive dust. That's the EPA terminology. In other words, particulate matter that's dust that can come from different types of industrial sites, from highways, roadways, and then there's also the other types of emissions that come from air pollution, as we know, car exhausts, things like that. We're really concerned, and people should be aware that there's changes going on in the EPA, but I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll get to that part. So in terms of asthma and other respiratory diseases like chronic obstructive pulmonary disease or emphysema or even lung cancer, we know that having a healthy environment and having fresh air, which we all came to really miss when we were dealing with that red tide, right? People generally became more aware of what happens when you're not able to breathe healthy air. Well, in communities of color, including North Sarasota, every day the students at Booker High School are faced with a cloud of dust that blows across Myrtle and affects them on their exercise field and their athletic fields. And
because of some of the business facilities across from the school.
That's right, and there's a huge mound of dust that just literally blows across the road. People think that's sand. That's dust coming from the industrial environments that then is affecting the surrounding community. It's so important that our National Medical Association recent president, Dr. Doris Brown, is actually coming to give grand rounds at Sarasota Memorial on Friday morning, the 21st at 8 a.m. Everyone's invited to come to that as well, and to learn more about this, what she's terming assault on our environment, and the fact that nationally we have a challenge in terms of communities of color and in terms of environmental toxicities that contribute as well to a higher proportion of cancer, cardiac disease, lung disease, neurological problems, behavioral problems, respiratory problems. And so there's always a perception that somehow people just need to make better choices. Certainly we want people to make better choices, and we want to give the information so that they can know what they can do to take good care of themselves and their families. But if you wake up and you walk out your yard and you're walking to school through a cloud of dust, you don't really have much choice but to do that if that's where you live and that's what your environment is.
Interesting that you say that, because so oftentimes we hear when people are looking for some place to live, location, location, location. But if one is very constrained about location because of the income level in the household, it's not as easy to say, I'll just choose whatever gated neighborhood, which oftentimes rarely have the treatment plant located within that facility, right?
Exactly, exactly.
So when we are looking for location, 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 if our environment is limited in terms of what we can choose from, all the more reason we have to really take care of what we have for the children, if not just for ourselves, right?
Precisely.
Yes,
Precisely.
that's so correct. That's
So
so
you
correct.
all aren't just working by yourselves. I understand that you're working with other neighborhood associations, as well as some government entities and some community-based organizations like the Sierra Club.
Yep,
Yep.
that is correct. We've also are working with our two other neighborhood associations, that's Central Coconut and Bayou Oaks. I mean, they're very concerned about the storm waters and how it is affecting their neighborhood. So we are all coming together around this. And one of the things that we'll be able to do at the event next Tuesday, we're going to also put together a task force. And so we invite, other neighborhoods, residents to come out, and learn and listen. And then so also, come with your questions. Come with your questions and come with your questions. And then we'll also have a task force put together.
Yeah, come with and your desire to help make it better. What can everybody do? We need help on people getting more awareness, getting educated. It's just a grassroots process that's been taking place for many, many years now, but it's coming to a good head because we have so much support from so many different areas, and I think it's bringing people's awareness to the forefront. And it also gives people a chance to really learn what they can do to take care of themselves. We need to look at dietary changes. It's the same thing that's my favorite prescription for everything, and that is exercise, good nutrition, fruits and vegetables, healthy mindset. This is going to help you with raising your immune system function. It's going to help you with cancer prevention. It's going to help save your heart. It's going to help control the diabetes. But at the same time, we know that exposure to this particulate matter and these type of pollutants actually increase the risk for those disorders as well.
Well, if there are people who aren't able to get to September 18th community forum. Give us a little insight as to what people can start doing right now. We talk about nutrition as an example.
Yes.
And obviously it seems that the grocery stores have started lowering prices even on some of the organic food. It used to be that the organic section was much more expensive than those things that are grown using pesticides and the like. But what kind of things can people start doing right now to take control over their health?
Well, you make a good point about the organic. That's a great place to start because you're trying to avoid the pesticides. If you're not able to get access to that, certainly washing fruit and vegetables, peeling off the skins that may have pesticides, waxes, and things like that on them. But you can still get the nourishment of the nutrients and the antioxidants. You want to go for things with colors. So all the reds and the blues and the greens and the purples. I mean, I love summer because when you go to the farmer's market, we have the farmer's market that we've got going in Newtown now on Friday and Saturday. And you can get great fresh vegetables, beautiful. I love to stop by there and pick up stuff every weekend. And you want to eat things as fresh as possible. Don't overcook them because then you defeat the purpose. If you get some nice, fresh, crunchy things and then you cook them down into mush, well, they're sort of cooking out a lot of the vitamins, right? You want to try to have multiple servings throughout the day. And so people don't even think about breakfast. Well, you can add salsa. You can put onions. You can put peppers in with those eggs, right? You can make salads that have multiple servings of different kinds of fresh vegetables. Put zucchinis in there. You can put, some people put onions, some people put broccoli, some people put cauliflower. And we know from studies that I call them the stinky vegetables that have sulfur on. So that's your cauliflower, your Brussels sprouts, your broccoli, those kind of things. They have actual properties that stimulate your body's detoxification systems. And so we really want to talk about how we can detoxify on a continual basis and stay healthy so that our bodies can be as strong as they can be.
And where can residents get that kind of information between coming to seminars like the one we're going to have on September 18th?
Well, on our website for the Multicultural Health Institute at www.the-mhi.org, we have a lot of information about antioxidant supplements, about resources where people can get those types of things, dietary information, and references to other organizations. The second Tuesday of every month, I do the Ask Dr. Lisa session for free at the North Library at 6 o'clock. And we talk about all types of things. People can come with their questions, and I'm always happy to answer that. And we will be live streaming this event on our Facebook page, and people can also go to our Facebook page and search Multicultural Health Institute in Sarasota.
What are some of the most frequently asked questions that you get when you're having your sessions, Ask Dr. Lisa?
Well, that's really focusing mostly on cancer survivors and caregivers. And so a lot of times people want to know about cutting edge treatments, or they want to know how to prevent cancer from recurring, or they want to, a lot of people want to lose weight. So that's always a big deal. It's not necessarily the cancer population, but just in general, people are always looking at, some quick fix. And unfortunately, there's no real, if it's a quick fix, it's probably not a real fix. Any of these things take time. But people just want to feel better. People want to have more energy. People want to not be in pain. People want to be able to do what they like to do. And whether that's taking a walk, or whether that's riding their bike, or working in their garden, hopefully growing some vegetables, which I also encourage people.
There was a time when throughout minority neighborhoods, you always saw the gardens growing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We're encouraging. We had a whole program, and we love the gardens, the Orange Blossom Garden and other garden programs, and we've done community outreach and teaching people to get back to that, teaching the kids, because we sort of missed a generation somehow where kids think everything comes in a plastic saran-wrapped container in the grocery store if they see that, or it's ketchup and French fries and that's their vegetables. So we're teaching them again to go back to that. I mean, if you could just have a little plot and grow your collard greens and your mustard greens and your kale, and it'd be good. And I'll come over and help you eat that, right?
Exactly.
It's good stuff. It's good. That's what we want to encourage people to do more of, taking charge.
Yeah.
And the grandmothers always talked about drinking the pot liquor when you finish cooking your vegetables, no matter what they were.
That's right.
Take the bowl and suck it all up, right? Don't leave anything.
Good stuff. I just made some peas the other day and drank the water. And it's delicious. I mean, people throw away stuff that's absolutely good for you, and plus you save money.
So what's next in terms of September 18th? You're going to be building these task forces.
Correct.
And so you want people to come out and start to do things. You mentioned as an example,
That's right.
helping to raise awareness. So what does that mean? Would I be, if I'm on the task force, might I be putting up information on my own as a resident, putting up information on my own Facebook page? Would it be
Correct.
sending emails to
Correct.
some of my friends?
Correct. All of the above. You know, we want you to come out, we want you to get involved, we want you to actually take action in your own community. You know, once we get these task force together, we want the people in the community to let us know how they would like for this to look, how they would like for it to run, and what ideas do they have for this task force. You know, some of the things are going to be like fundraising. You know, some of the things will be like researching, you know, and some of the things may be more about community awareness and actually doing some door-to-door, and advocacy, and doing some door-to-door stuff just to bring more awareness, and also looking for those people who care about this kind of stuff. I think we know at least one person that we can bring along and say, hey, I'm concerned about my environment and I'm concerned about our health, and so I want you to come so we can listen and we can find out more information.
And we also have a survey. It's currently posted on the MHI website, and we also have them in hard copies. People can put their survey in at the Selby Goodwill right there at MLK and Osprey. And we'll be doing more surveying. They're ongoing right now and also at the event. So we can get tangible input from the community on how this is impacting them, what they feel should be done about it or could be done about it, and also what they might be willing to commit to help with.
Correct.
And we think that data will be helpful to inform decisions that happen in terms of what's going to happen in that corridor as things are getting developed in our area. How can that be prioritized? Because we have the issue of the dust and the pollution, but we also have the runoff on either sides there on the Bayou Oaks and the other creek. I forget the name of the other creek. And so how that affects our water and our coastal waters.
Right.
And so we really need to work together as a community to come up with some good solutions, and also to protect and uplift the people affected by this. So we don't have enough, you know, why should we have more Flints? We know what's going on, and we're building on models of other communities around the country. And this is something the National Medical Association feels very strongly about, and is encouraging local level communities to take this type of action.
Right.
And to work together, because we feel this is one important arm that's been underlooked in terms of trying to solve the dilemma of health inequities that result in health disparities in the different rates of death and disease amongst populations of color.
The data that I see both of you have quite a bit of data.
Yes.
And you talk a little bit about performing research and collecting research. For some folks, being on a task force and saying I'm going to be on the research part of it, it might be a little bit like me, if you will. Research sounds kind of scary, but really collecting the data is so important, because a lot of communities of color don't always have the data collected for whatever reason. So talk about how easy it is to participate in terms of collecting data and being part of the research to help make our communities healthier.
Sure.
Well, we're going to have the round table discussions as well.
Yeah,
There's
we'll
different
have that.
forms of the data. We're going to talk about
We'll
that.
have that. And also when we take a look at the data, you know, the data's already out there. Like we can get, people may not know it, but you can actually get data from your local and your state government. And, you know, also you can get data, you know, from data tracking websites. So there's a lot of different data being taken a looked at today that is just so much out there. And so we can actually zoom in to our area where we live by our zip code and find out data just by the zip code information.
Excellent, excellent. So this is certainly a place where we want to be involved with data collection.
Correct.
We hear so many negative things now with things like Facebook and how our data is being used, but when it comes to our health, this is absolutely critical that we participate in responding to questions that are asked.
Correct.
And this is the model that MHI has done for years, you know, really going to the community, working together to facilitate a community process to understand what's important, what are the priorities. We've done an over decades-long program here where we did an initial survey assessment, then we did a follow-up looking at different areas of health disparities and targeting programs that would be impactful and sustainable. And we've made a lot of progress, and we're really pleased with that. But this environmental piece has always been there in the background. It's just too huge And now we're really happy that we can get to this one now, and we can use the same kind of model, and we can work towards that. And this is important because Dr. Brown, in her editorial in June, she talks about that 54% of African Americans are in communities that have a significantly higher exposure to pollution and particulate matter. I mean, this is a really significant problem that everyone kind of knows about, that comes from historical inequities that we know that happen. But we now really have to take ownership of as a country and moving forward to make it fair for everybody and to bring that same type of wellness. We also know that the genetic influence of generations living in these types of environments causes something called epigenetic influence, and it even can affect things like weight, diabetes, certainly cancer, and these other things. So there's a return on this investment for the generations to come, because if we can get people healthier now, we can actually change gene expression within this generation. It's pretty amazing.
Is this one of the reasons that when we have, oftentimes everything comes back to politics, really. So when we get letters in the mail, as an example, saying that consumer input is wanted because something is about to go into our neighborhood, something is about to be built in the neighborhood, and businesses are asking for variances and that kind of thing. Is that one of the reasons why we have to really pay attention to what's going on in our neighborhood, what facilities are being placed in our neighborhood,
Yes.
what kind of businesses are going into our neighborhoods?
Most definitely. You know, right now, you know, in Amaryllis Park, you know, there's an industrial park over there right off of Myrtle. Now, mind you, this industrial park has been there 60 plus years, but what if we had gotten involved back then? Maybe we wouldn't have had an industrial park right across from Booker High School. So it is so important that when you receive that information, to really read it. And if you can participate, that's even better. Also, we have the survey. Take the survey and find out, you know, how you may be affected or your environment is being affected by air pollution, dust. You know, you'd be surprised to know that you are being affected, but yeah, it is so important that you take surveys, you participate, you make some phone calls, and you actually talk to people. But also get involved with your neighborhood association. Amaryllis Park Neighborhood Association cares about the community, everyone in it, and we want you to get involved. We want you to come in with your questions, why, what. We want to listen to what you have to say.
It's people like you that really make the difference, because some things we really have to take control of. We can't just wait for the government, if you will, to do it for us, right?
Correct.
We have to be,
Correct.
and
We
so
do.
we really are the people. When
That's
we
right.
talk
That's
about the
right.
American
That's right.
people, that's us sitting around this
That's
table.
right. That's
That's
right.
those of us who are walking out to the mailbox to get the mail to say, what's going on in my neighborhood. So we've got to
Correct.
get involved.
But when you mentioned the government, I did want to bring up this very important piece of what's happening right now with the Environmental Protection Agency and the attempt to roll back some of the Obama-era changes that have been made to protect our environment, building on the Clean Air Act in the 1970s that started to change and get back much of our environment from the horrible pollution that was happening before we really understood what that was about. They're now proposing changes in the EPA that will drastically increase the risk of exposure, not only for communities of color, but for everyone. Things like reducing the monitoring of methane release and methane leaks at those types of industries from instead of once every 6 months to maybe once every year, every 2 years, and giving them far more time to sort of remedy the situation. We're very concerned, and people should be concerned, and people should be contacting their representatives about their concern that we appreciate the EPA as an organization. It keeps us all safe. It helps us to have some entity in place to monitor and to set minimums, very minimum standards for everyone's health and safety. And if those things are rolled back and there's far less oversight and there's far less infrastructure, well, then everyone stands to lose and to have greater complications as a result of that.
So when we talk about how politics impacts everything that we do, this is the very perfect example of
Very much
be
so.
involved with the EPA. Writing to your Congress people, talking with your Congress people is even better than writing to them, right?
That's
Especially
right.
when they're home. Go sit in their office to talk about what's going on in your neighborhood.
That's right.
Right, and that basically there's so few responses on what can be done because the EPA now has far less authority than it did before, and they're trying to roll back even more. And that's really very concerning for our children and their children, because we only have one planet.
We're fortunate that we have people like you all involved. In fact, you are associated with someone who used to sit on the EPA. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, one of our advisors, Dr. Harris at FAMU.
Florida A&M University,
right.
my
That's
alma
right.
mater.
Oh, right then. You might have known of her. She's like an amazing leader. And she was part of the Health Equities Research Institute that MHI is part of out of Tampa that was working as a public health and public policy think tank. And they actually FAMU sponsored one of our MHI scholars a couple summers ago. They have summer enrichment programs that help to support STEAM-H programs like we run for science, technology, engineering, arts, math, and health awareness. And because we believe in developing future leaders. And Dr. Harris is part of a whole consortium that's working to study to get this type of data. And we're looking to them to help as well on guiding this process for the community and how we can work together to not only look at the impact and what happens, but also to bring solutions that are doable and reasonable and can be realized.
Yep.
So we often talk about saving our children, taking good care of their health, and saving the elderly, making sure that we are paying attention to the health of the elderly.
Right.
What do we need to do to make sure that people like the caregivers of children and the elderly are constantly being involved and active and understanding that taking care of their health is as equally important?
That's right. Well, we will have some information at the Interactive on blood pressure, diabetes, BMI, stress management.
Body mass index.
That's right, body mass index, stress management. Again, it's the same type of approach, but it's really caregivers in particular. They're sort of being one I can speak to that as well. You know, you're caught in this between these two worlds and trying to balance that and trying to move forward and trying to take care of yourself at the same time. And so I think it's really important that people recognize the need to take a little time out, whatever that is, do your meditation, to really eat well. When you eat well, you actually have more resilience and you have more energy. When you go for that salad or you go for that banana or that apple as opposed to the candy bar, you know, and how they've repurposed, like, you know, Reese's bars and things like that, that's good for you because it's got some protein in it. Well, but it's got a lot of sugar in it, and sugar causes a rapid rise and then a rapid drop, and it actually gives you more fatigue. So it's just kind of not worth it in the end. And that's not to say you shouldn't have a treat every now and then. I mean, Dr. Lisa isn't, you know, I do like fun and games, believe me, but I mean, I think eating well and taking care of self is important. And I think keeping that blood pressure under control and monitoring, because especially for caregivers, so much is weighing. If you don't take care of you, then everything else falls apart. That's kind of what I talk to people. It's like on the airplane, they say first put the oxygen mask over your own face and then help everybody else, because if you pass out, well, then the whole thing falls apart, right?
Exactly.
You know, but this thing on health disparities is so significant. Surgeon General, he had a statement that's so compelling, and and they used that recently in a presentation on the opioid crisis. I felt they didn't give him credit. And that is, if you were to take a completely full 747, and if it were to crash every day, that would sort of approximate the extent and the impact of unnecessary and preventable deaths from health disparities.
Amazing.
It's pretty amazing.
That's amazing.
So if we can find anything to keep maybe one plane from crashing, which is probably a lot more, if we can help deal with environmental issues and help with people with their wellness and with you know, getting the screening, getting the prevention, things like asthma. I'm really focusing on this because asthma is something people write off. They don't even understand the signs and symptoms.
We're going to have to wrap up, so I want to make sure that before we leave, September 18th, we're going to be there, Robert L. Taylor, and we're going to have you all back after the session to talk about the progress that's being
Sounds
made.
like a plan.
Thank you so much for joining us.
We appreciate it.
And thank you, Suncoast.
Clogged pores are disgusting. Introducing DermaSuction, the easy way to suck that yuck out of your pores. DermaSuction removes blackheads and dirt from your pores. Just look at everything it extracts. The secret's the gentle vacuum action. Watch as DermaSuction extracts so much yuck, leaving your skin feeling clean and youthful.
The gunk that had been pulled out, I was pretty horrified, but better in the DermaSuction than on my face.
It's almost addictive because you can see all this stuff coming out of your skin that you don't even really know is there.
Call now to order your DermaSuction for just $19.99. We'll also include our small and large body probes, the Sonic Microdermabrasion probe, and the handy travel case, all absolutely free. Order now and you can double the offer. Just pay a separate fee. You can get all this, but you have to order now.
Call 1-800-213-9301. That's 1-800-213-9301 or visit dermasuction.com. So call 1-800-213-9301 now.
Download the all-new ABC7 First Alert weather app now.